okay. You're allowed. You're busy. Everybody's busy. Anyway, to answer your first question, I was just told today, I'd originally been told that I was going to stay in Louisiana. But today they told me that I'm moving up to Landview and I'm going to get some normal clothes.
Normal sex, everything, right?
I don't know where I'll live or what will happen to me. But
can't wait to be on boarding house.
oh, I wonder. Perhaps I will. I don't know if I get all the money Asa owes me. I don't have to live at this boarding house. Thank you. All of it. I brought you an outline. They wanted, it's not a script, it's an outline because we were talking about it. And the thing is that they were going to give me, they thought they gave me today's, but they gave me what was on the air today instead of today's. I mean, what we saw today. You see what I'm trying to say?
Oh, I understand. Yeah, air date.
Yeah, instead I didn't check it before I left, but they gave me the air date, you know, that thing.
That's all right. We can go to people.
Oh, yeah, it's for you, but what's interesting about it is how really in detail it is. I mean, look, see, here's Act 4. You see?
It's too bad I wasn't the one today, but it's all right.
Yeah, well, no, I can get the one today. I can have it sent to you tomorrow.
All right.
I'll call the studio and they'll send it to the hotel.
Thank you.
That's the show that was on the air today, which I don't know if anybody saw.
We forgot about it about 5
But we were all sightseeing, I guess. But I asked for the one that we taped today. But of course that'll be on next Tuesday. Beg pardon? This is the Daily Breakdown. And this is that's what my husband does. That's what Sam does. He writes that outline. He makes up the story, and he and a couple of other assistants do the outline. And no, then other people. Then this is given to a writer who writes the script. This is the outline. It's not a script, obviously. But from this, they make up an 80-odd page script. But this is very detailed, as I was saying this afternoon. The point is, I'm sorry, I can't.
That's all right.
My voice goes far. Nobody knows that. Anyway, but from this, if you know the characters, you know, and any writer writing would, you can, you'll see how easy it is to write. And examples of dialogue are given that are used, and, you know, and things like that. It is a fascinating thing, any of you that are interested in writing. Well, first they start, you know them, they start with like 2 years, and then 1 year, and then 9 months, and then 6 months, and they break it down. And then when it's finally broke down, the logistics of it are terrifying, because every actor, yes please, every actor, every actor has different contractual obligations. So you have 2.5 a week, you have 1.5 a week, you know, and they all have to be fulfilled so that ABC doesn't pay people for not working, because they'll be mad. Cheers. And today was Dorian LaPinto and Tony Cole's birthday. And all of a sudden, birthday cakes were brought about, so we all pigged out.
Maybe for mine, it's my squirrel.
Oh, really? Oh, that's funny. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Are you still doing a lot of cooking and sewing by yourself?
Yeah, I love it.
Do you find yourself experimenting a lot, or do you keep falling back on the old standbys?
No, I always experiment. All the time. That's more fun. Making the old stuff.
It's boring.
Anyway, it's yours. Keep it. It's interesting.
All right.
I don't know why they're all women. But somehow all other, the one that's the head vice president started out under Freddie Silverman, you know, who was that famous man that went from CBS to ABC to NBC, wherever he is now, wherever he is, he's not starving. Anyway, and she was trained by him, and when he came to ABC, he brought her, she had started out as a secretary, you know, as everyone does, really, and he brought her over to ABC, and then he left, and she stayed, and she's done very well. She's, you know, clearly a very bright woman. You know, I mean, they have to be a vice president of ABC. You're not just one. Anyway, so, and she believes in having women, you know, I mean, as I do, most of us do. I mean, yes, men can have jobs, but you know what I mean. And particularly for daytime, it's a very good idea to have women, you know, all involved in daytime, because clearly it's mostly women that watch it all over the country. I mean, 35 million people every day watch One Life to Live. Isn't that, it's mind-boggling, you know, it really is, it's hard to comprehend. It really is 35 million people a day. It really is, golly. Anyway, so they all came with their husbands and boyfriends and whatever. So I had 14 people for lunch on Sunday. And what I made was the teletomato, which is cold veal that you poach, you know, a whole boned loin of veal that you poach and then let it cool, and then slice it and put it on a big platter, and then make a sauce in the Cuisinart of the blender with tuna fish and oil and anchovies and capers and homemade mayonnaise. So you mix it all together and you just spread it all over the top, and it's lovely cold, you know. And then a cold rice salad. Chocolate cake. Oh, and lots of fresh tomatoes, sliced tomatoes from my garden. I grew the first time in my life. That's right. All right. Does anybody want me to tell them what anything is? Carpaccio is wonderful. It's raw beef. Very good. I almost had that, yeah. I might have that instead of the duck. But I first had it in Italy, in Venice, in a famous place called Cipriani, Harry's Bar in Venice. And they make it, it's paper thin, and it doesn't taste raw at all. And it's got kind of a mustardy sauce.
Oh, but it's kind of like sushi.
It is like, yeah, it is like sushi, because with Japanese food you can get beef too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There are a couple of things that might happen in the fall. No, I'm not tied up with life. I don't have a contract. I have, however, obligations because of my relationship to him. You know, I mean, I can't walk off. You know, I mean, I'm more trustworthy than just in this situation than just an actor with a job. You know, because just an actor with a job could get another job and leave. I would not leave. I mean, I would be responsible to this in spite of the fact that I don't have a contract. You know what I mean? Just because of sounds. Yeah, because I can't just split. And that's all. I don't know. There are a couple of plays if they get done, I'll do. But I wouldn't have to leave this to do them, you know.
What do you think about them? How definite are they in plan?
You never know. I can't really talk about them because there's one play that I like, and if they can get it on, if they can raise the money, if they, you know, I mean, it's a crazy business. It really is.
Welcome to the club, yes, always. That's how life is.
Well, no, but the theater is, you know, being an actor is crazier, you know.
It's so expensive to put anything on nowadays.
Yes, it is. And the theater is gotten really almost prohibitive because all the unions have gone up and the stage hands and the, you know. I did a thing Sunday week, the 22nd, in the country called Facade, which is a poetry by Edith Sitwell and music by William Walton. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of those people. It was written, she was an English poetess, and she's dead, they're both dead, and it was written in the 20s. And it's a fascinating piece. She wrote 21 poems, and she and William Walton, who was an English composer, sat and put the music together, and, you know, she wrote the poem, and then he put the music, or he wrote the music, and then she did the poem.
Songs, or they're just
No, it's more interesting than that. They're not just songs. They're poetry, but they're. Oh, I wish I brought that. But it's written. The voice is used as an instrument. I mean, it's scored for 7 instruments, including voice. So that the music is written, and it doesn't go up and down as it would be for singing. You know, it doesn't go C, D, E, F, whatever. It's all on the same, I mean, it's all written on the same thing. You can do whatever voice you choose, but it's written as music, whole note, half note, res, you know, I mean, whatever. And it was fascinating for me. It was terribly difficult because I'm not really a musician. I can read music, I can play the piano, but my mother was right. I never worked hard enough at it. You know?
all those years trying to make you practice, right?
All those years, I should have. Ah, well. Anyway, it was fascinating. I mentioned this because we did it in the country. And musicians came from New York, and it was fascinating. They pick up music as if they're reading a book, you know, and they just pick up a flute. And in spite of having been in a musical, you know, I didn't see that part of it, that kind of rehearsal. What was fascinating to me was we had 4 rehearsals, and they were all professional 802 union, you know, musicians. And what was fascinating was that the first day somebody came and said, my name is something or other, and I'm going to play the sax today because Joe called me and he's sick and he can't make it. I thought, isn't that interesting? Well, I guess he'll play it for the show. No. He just played it for the rehearsal. Then the next day, the guy came, the real saxophonist. then somebody came and said, I'm going to play the clarinet today. And I said, how do they do? And they just sit there and play these. And I mean, it's inconceivable that an actor could miss a rehearsal and say, go take my place, you know.
Fill in for me and then I'll come back and check it out.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But they do it because what happens is that the music belongs to the conductor or whoever rents the music or owns the music, you know, whatever. So that the music is there on the music stand and whoever it is makes notes on it. And then the next guy comes and plays the flute and sees all the notes and reads them. Absolutely fascinating. It's a whole other world that I knew nothing about. And it was God. Anyway, they told me, I was asking the conductor about this. His name is Newell Jenkins, and he has something called Clarion Concerts. He does Baroque music, generally. And I asked Newell, and he said, there's a famous story about an American conductor that went to Paris, and in Paris they do it even worse than we do in Paris. And at one point he said to the violinist, I've had so many changes in the whole orchestra, but I'm so relieved that you have been here through every performance. You know, it's given me a sense of continuum. And the violinist said, yes, but I won't be here for performance.
So much for that.
I thought it was marvelous. It was the strangest experience in the world. Anyway, it was a great challenge. and I just read poetry to music for about 50 minutes without stopping. We just went from one to the other. Yes, one person, one performance. Yeah, we're going to do more, but probably not till next winter sometime. But it was fascinating, and it was a benefit for retarded children. We raised rather a lot of money, and that was nice, you know. But it was fascinating because it was a whole other void, other world that I knew nothing about. But I was just saying that in terms of, now the reason that 802, the Musicians Union, is so great is that all these people that go and replace, you know, the saxophonist, he gets paid how much ever, I don't know what it is, by the hour. So that his friend says, will you take my rehearsal for me? So he doesn't spoil the rehearsal for the other musicians who can't play without the saxophone, you know. And so somebody goes and he does it, and he gets like $40 an hour or something. I don't know what, I'm making it up. But, you know, it's enough so that he can call somebody and say, would you take it for me? And, you know, and you get the money. And they get the money instead of, you know, the guy.
The next time you do this, can you let us know?
Sure. Oh, when I do it next, it will be publicized, because this was 3 hours upstate, you know. I mean, it was just really far away.
You can give me another advance notice for the shadow graphic.
Okay, yeah. Because as I say, it probably won't be till next winter. Newell wants to there's talk of doing it on Channel 13, and there's talk of doing a concert of it at Lincoln Center. You know, we'll see. Nothing, it's all talk at the moment. I mean, this is still August. But I'd like to do it. I'd like to do it. It's the kind of thing that I could do other places in the country, you know, because it's,
That kind of thing with no limits anyway.
yeah, because you just need 7, it's cheap. I mean, it's cheap in terms of orchestra. Well, I didn't get paid a cent, neither did the conductor, but it's cheap in terms of, and just the musicians, of course, got paid because they had to be. No, we just stood there. I wore a long dress. Had a microphone. Anyway, it was fun. So, I mean, that's just something that one does when one's not doing one wants to live, or suicide or something. Something proper and, you know, unprogrammed. That's very nice, thank you. Collinsport Canning and Cod Corporation, my God. Has no zip code. Oh.
Post office will deliver it anyway.
Thank you very much. Marvelous. Oh, you have to be very careful. They get checked out. But you can't, there are a lot of things. Like in the script today, I was supposed to say about my daughter, to hell with her. And they said I couldn't do it. I didn't know that until I rehearsed this morning. And I was not allowed to say. The line was that she had done this and that. Well, she succeeded, and to hell with her. And other people said hell, but I guess you can't say it about your daughter.
It's going into
It's not nice.
Mom and apple pie, you know.
Yeah. Delilah is her name, my daughter. Euphemia and Delilah. Well, that's some family.
You can tell already.
We're a little muddy.
They're actually like...
Oh, boy. I'm going to go shopping with the designer for real clothes once we decide what kind of clothes Euphemia would wear in the city.
Elegant as she can get, I'm sure.
I don't know. I mean, what's her idea of elegance, though? I mean, if she's still wearing those awful things.
Probably those terrible little round hats with no veils.
Big hats. Chic hats. No, I don't know. Huh?
You can write it into their daughter, picks out the outfit.
Well, I don't know. You should see the daughter. Oh boy, when she got into costume today. She's very beautiful, but she's about 5'11". She's in a musical now called Nine on Broadway. The girl that's playing my daughter, Delilah. Have you seen it? I haven't seen Nine. Her name is Shelley Birch, and I don't think she's acted much. She's fairly memorable because she's about 5'11", and really an extraordinary figure. I mean, really. And she's beautiful, and they had her today for her opening day, and oh boy. She's in a halter top, and these tight, I think they were made out of elastic of some sort, jeans with sequins and boots and, oh, you know, the whole works. And it was all kind of palomino colored, and she had a palomino horse. It was very beautiful. The horse was lovely.
Sounds like California.
It was very beautiful. And she has black hair, and she's very pretty. And she seems very nice. This was her first day, so we don't know, but she seems like a very nice girl.
First time on television?
I don't know. I would think that she was not very experienced, just from her manner. She was terribly nervous, and it showed. I mean, you know, sure, I was nervous the first day, but it didn't show. Nobody knew that. Oh, sure. Everybody's always scared. But we get through it somehow, you know. Everybody does. We live through it. It's her first soap. Yeah, I don't know what other television she's done. But she was prepared. She knew all her lines, and she was acting away. And she came to me and she said, "What is the secret? Do you have any idea? Why do you hate me so much? What did I do to you?"
Good question.
And so I said, "This is what I have chosen to think it is. If it helps you, fine." So we talked about that. And, you know, it's interesting to have a secret in acting. You know, just something that you know that nobody else. In Dark Shadows, my secret was that I was in love with Barnabas. You know, and it was never written, and it was never discussed, it was never talked about, it was never told. It was my secret, you know, and I originally did it to make Julia more interesting.
So it was your idea?
It was my idea, yeah. It wasn't, no, I was meant to be in, I was hired on Dark Shadows, and I was going to be this doctor that would bring Maggie Evans back, and then I was going to track down Barnabas, and then I was going to find out all about him, and he was going to kill me, and that would be the end of me.
Short and sweet.
And contracts in television go in 13-week segments, 13 or 26 weeks. And my agent called me and said, "We'll sign a contract for 13 weeks, but they'll use up the 13 performances, you know, one a week, in a month or so." And he said, "It just seems like a good way to spend the summer, because I start at the beginning of July." I said, "Oh, great." And so that was it.
There.
4 years later.
Still 13-week contract.
It's fascinating. But that was really all because I decided I was in love with him, because it seemed such a bore to be technical and, you know, now let's do this all technically, you know, hematology and I don't know what the hell I was.
You were saying earlier today that you like Euphemia's role. It's a nice, meaty role. Is that the kind of role that you like to play?
Oh, yes.
Is there a particular kind of role that you prefer better, a particular part, particular play or movie or if you had your druthers to pick whatever you want?
Oh, it would be a bad guy. Oh, always, yeah. It's boring to be nice. I mean, what's the point? I mean, it's not theatrically interesting.
But through history, the villains have always had the most fun.
I think so. Yeah. Richard II. Oh, it's a matter of degree, though, really. So that somebody that would be a bad guy in heaven would not necessarily be a bad guy in our terms. But everybody can't be good. You know, I mean, there are gradations of good. Yeah, but there are gradations of good. I mean, you're better than I am, and we may both, you know, and you're a better, proper, religious, good soul than I am, but we're both good. But you know, I mean, but it's going to be competitive anyway.
What I liked about Dark Shadows was the fact that the lines between good and evil were not drawn that tightly as they were on so many other programs, because Barnabas and your character also did things which were, quote, evil things. But
Bumping off people is generally.
But yet
I never bumped anybody off. I remember I made a hypo.
Dave Woodard.
That's right. I didn't do it. I couldn't. The Hippocratic Oath.
Very strong hypo. Why wouldn't they find the hole in the overcoat? I think my favorite metaphor, you know, on the show was when they strangled a woman to death, and with her last breath, she named Barnabas as the minute strangled. It's like, you know. I mean, it's a little hard to speak when you're out of air, you know.
The other thing that I used to laugh at were people that would throw the I Ching to get to the 18th century and wait and never get there.
Keep turning it over. Maybe this is it.
Oh boy.
Have you been able to see any?
Oh boy.
Have you been able to see any of the reruns?
I can't hear you.
Have you been able to see any of the reruns that have been shown?
Yeah, I put them on tape occasionally. And they're a little embarrassing, I must admit.
Why do you say that?
Well, I don't know. If you look at something you did 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it's nothing you're as proud of. So also, they were technically, it was so badly done. Come on, let's face it. It really was. You know, I mean, the booms and shadows and
But we loved that. We treasured those moments.
You said hilarious.
Right. Yes, good. And nights when credits would roll by and a stagehand would walk by and you'd see
yes.
I saw one about 2-3 months ago with the stagehand walking by in the back of Josette's room. And those are...
I wonder if it's that was.
I assume
So
it was
funny.
a stagehand. It was not a cast member.
She was on the scenes with the man in
It
the
was a
background.
ghost.
Stage manager. She was just so tickled.
We liked him, John looked DeVoe. It's interesting because there are a lot of the crew on One Life that are old ABC people. A couple of the cameramen were cameramen then.
Do they work on Dark Shadows with you then, or was
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, it's fascinating just, you know, to see people that I haven't seen in years. There's a Christmas party every year, and all the stagehands and, you know, everybody goes to it. We go to it. There's always, every show has a big party. And I've seen them all over the years as I go, you know, with Sam. But it's nice to work with them. Really sweet. A sense of continuum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all very nice. Yeah. And you share experiences. I'm sorry.
One Life is also a lot of old years back. I mean, they've got Anthony George now.
Yeah, Tony was on today. Yeah, he's a sweet guy. I know, yeah, he's been there a long time. And every time I see him at a party or something, he's always saying, now get on this show. Why don't we have a romance on this show? And finally I got on and he said, I said, I'm not coming to Landview, I'm just going to stay. So he went upstairs to Sam's office and he said, she's got to come. Sam said, thanks very much. That's very sweet of you, Sophie. And then I told him today I learned that I was going to land it. He said, see, I told Sam. Didn't have very much to do with his saying it, of course.
What's the most unusual thing you've ever done as an actor? DS or otherwise, or most memorable? Anything all that sticks out?
I would say, it's funny because people say, do you like doing film or television or theater? And it's always what you haven't done recently. At the moment, it's the facade that's been the most fascinating, and I will be very upset if I don't get to do it again, you know, because I really worked like a dog. I mean, it was really some of the hardest work I've ever done in terms of concentrated, you know, I mean, really work, I suppose. When I started out acting, before I really knew how to, you know, I mean, when I was learning technique, I suppose I worked that hard. But this is a whole foreign experience, and it was really fascinating. I suppose also I did a French film in France, and that was hard. And that was exhausting because they talk French all day. Yeah, but not that well. And it was exhausting. I mean, the electrician spoke French and the cameraman.
It was done in English, though? So
No, it was all in French. Everybody was talking French. I was in Paris. And it was hell. Matthew is writing a novel, and he graduated from college. Matthew was just 24. He was born in 1958. Does that make him 24? Yeah. Anyway, it was August 19th, so I, you know. When he graduated from college last June, he went to a college called Hampshire. I don't know if you know about Hampshire, but it's only 10 years old, and it's up in Amherst, Massachusetts, and it's a crazy school. You make up your own majors. Suppose you say, I want to learn about 18th century
French history.
French history. They say, okay, what do you want to learn about it? And so you say, so then you set about taking the courses to tell you all about French history in the 18th century. You know, please start, eat while it's hot. Come on, don't be silly. Mine's cold anyway. So, as he says, you have to demand your education. And the only thing education can give you anyway, really, is a mode of inquiry. I mean, you can only learn how to look something up, really, how to learn what it is you want to learn. And it's a very difficult school, because I don't think you can get through it if you're not bright, you know, because you've got to really understand, at least all the kids that we've met. Certainly.
You're taking things you want to take.
Yeah, and you've got to be self-motivated as well.
There you go.
So when Matt, you have an advisory group. So the advisory group, you know, keeps you, so that there's some control of what you're doing. So you're you know, you have to start out, the first year you have to do an exam in each of the 4 schools, like earth science, humanity and arts, you know, language and communication, you know, so you have to, you have to have a pass a course in each of the schools. Then you begin to narrow down, and it goes into 3 divisions, and your final division is generally like a thesis. And so his was, he decided he wanted to write a novel for his final thing.
What was the major that he created for himself?
Writing for money.
Oh, that's realistic.
Yeah, and so he went to, and after his second year, he went to Tucson to work on a newspaper, on whatever that newspaper is called in Tucson. I can't remember what it's called now. But it's a small newspaper, and it doesn't have a union, so they take interns. And they're not just interns, because they get to not just write obituaries, which is what you generally start at. And he wrote a half dozen byline pieces, that he had. He learned all about that computer thing where you type and it goes straight to the editor. There's no piece of paper, you just type on a thing, on a word processor, and you press a button and it goes to the editor reads it, and then I don't know. He makes it make sense, not to me. Anyway, so the head of his advisory group, when we went up there for his graduation, said to us that we have not read his novel, and he knew that, and we've not read it because he wanted us to. We've read everything else he's written, but not the novel, because he came to us several times and said, I want you to read it. We kept putting it off, and finally he said, okay, this weekend you're going to read it. And had he come to me, I would have read it and said it was wonderful no matter what I thought, being a mother. But he fortunately went to his father first, and Sam said, no, I'm not going to read it, your mother's not going to read it either. And Matthew said, thank you. He said, what do you mean? And he said, well, he said, it's a no-win situation. He said, if we love it, you won't believe us. And if we hate it, you'll stop writing. And he's absolutely right. It was brilliant of Sam to have known that. And he said, you're very lucky. You're not like some kid that's writing in Colorado or somewhere. You know editors, book editors and literary agents that have seen you grow up, that, in my house and that are friends. So you can get a professional opinion very easily. And so what do you need our for?
It's true. And you'd be kind of biased anyway, you said.
Sure. I would have said I loved it, and Sam would be overcritical, you see. And so it's true. It really is. If you really examine, because what you want for your child is, Anyway, so when we went up for graduation, the head of his advisory group said, I know you haven't read it, he said, Matt told me. He said, but if you could possibly afford it, he said, he works very slowly, and it's a marvelous book. He said it could be a bestseller, it could be a movie. He said he should be allowed to finish it. He said, he works very slowly, he said, and I would hate for him to get a job in advertising or something. And in 5 years, somebody say, oh yes, I've been writing a book for 5 years, because that happens to all too many people who are talented, that can't afford the time. So we talked it over, and yes, we can afford it at the moment, so, we're going to give him the time to finish it. So that's what's happening. No, just the advisory group, the school, who are all professionals of some sort. It may not be bestsellers, but they're poets and they're, more academic.
Not very attentive.
Is he working in it all, or is he just working on the novels?
Working on the novel.
That's good. Pressure on it.
And he lives in the country. He has an apartment of his own. And his girl has graduated from Hampshire, and she lives there with him.
That's good. You conjure up this image of the little nook in the cranny in the corner of the country surrounded by the trees and the guy sitting in his typewriter.
Now he has a little apartment in a little town about 15 miles from our house. And And she works in a shop.
Nice.
That's very nice. Dan is doing The Winds of Lore, the Herman Luke.
February 9th through 14th. They're editing it
Is
right
it finished?
now. Yes, they're editing it right now.
A friend of mine is working on it.
And the word about it is that it's brilliant.
Yeah. I heard it too. I'm eager
Yeah.
to see it.
They just had an article in the LA paper just before I left, all about the editing process.
Really?
Picture of him and talking about all the work and how he's working days, nights, weekends.
Now, Dan has learned a great deal, and I must say, give him full marks for a man that really knew nothing about the creative world when he started Dark Shadows. It was an absolute fluke. He had been a golfer. You all know the story, I'm sure. And then, years later, when I worked with him and he directed a thing I did with Id Young and Lee J. Cobb. He was a good director. And I was terribly surprised because I thought, oh, well, Dan, dear old Dan, I love him dearly, but he's Dan. And I was really terribly surprised and terribly pleased because I'd always liked him. Well, he was not been a director, he practiced on us. And really, he learned.
Got to be a guinea pig.
Yeah, we were always guinea pigs. It was awesome. But he really learned brilliantly. You've got to give him full marks about it. It really is. Well, he's become a good director. Oh, really? He's a sweet man. But I would not have thought a creative man until, he learned the hard way. Really.
That's good.
I suppose I only saw one of them, and it was awful.
It was.
And it didn't make a lot of sense. From moment to moment.
I think they put all their money into the special effects on that, too. They built this
that
big
crane
layout.
With a swimming pool and everything.
Whoa.
That was some crap. Let's take it.
Right.
That might travel out west.
Well, most fans will ask you almost invariably, I'm sure you've been asked, do you remember any bloopers from the show besides hitting water with the jacket? You've been talking about the boom mics. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's right. No. I think not a blooper, but my favorite moment really has always been we were getting ready to do the show, and the stage manager said 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And we got to about 2. Jonathan sat up, lifted the lid of the bowl, sat up and said, now wait a minute, before we start, I just want to say, this coffin has always been too short for me. And I am sick of lying here with my knees on the side. When am I? And we was just collapsed. It really has always been, when I think of Dark Shadows, I really picture that moment. Because we're all very tense and we're waiting to start. So funny, because he was too tall. Huh? Funny.
Not only will you become a vampire, you'll become taller.
You'll be uncomfortable in your coffin.
You're going to suffer as a vampire.
She didn't want the story based on that.
I'll do it.
I wonder if Jonathan will remember it. I must ask him.
It should be very difficult to constantly be aware of camera. You're supposed to start, on many.
No, it's an odd thing. Can I explain that? You always know subliminally, which camera, and you're also directed so that Today I had the scene with this man, and he was Lincoln, and he was sitting, and I walked behind him, and there was a camera here, and then at a certain line I turned back to him, and then that camera, you see, and so you do that at rehearsal, and and so you really kind of, you don't make a point of remembering it, but it's back here somewhere. And you kind of know that when, because it was logical for me to walk by and say, oh, things like that don't happen by accident. And I walked there, and then I looked back and said, and, it doesn't bother you somehow. It doesn't affect your awareness. It's a subliminal awareness, and it's very hard to explain. I don't know. It's like in the theater knowing you're on a stage,
I think I can. I'm virtually blind without these. I've acted for years.
I am too.
And I've never gone off the end of the stage yet.
No, as a matter of fact, I did a play once. I can't remember what play it was, but it was in the theater, and they said at rehearsal, will you use your own glasses? And I said, oh, sure. I might as well. And all of a sudden, it was dress rehearsal. And I saw people sitting. It was in summer stock or somewhere. And I saw people sitting. I saw Sam. I saw the stage manager. And I said, oh, I don't want to see all this. No. I want fake ones.
You want to know the real?
No, I don't want to see all that.
When I on stage, I came back and everyone asked me afterwards, weren't you nervous with all those people? And it was sort of like, you can see our sort of a blur that you know where the footlight is. That's how
Let me see through your glasses. Very interesting. No, yours wouldn't work. Hers wouldn't work. Hers wouldn't work. But hers worked for me and mine. Drive me mad, because even in the studio I don't want to see. Except there is a teleprompter, so I can't see.
People walk up to the camera.
one of Jonathan's problems as well, not being able to see the
I can't hear you.
I said, what's not one of Jonathan's problems as well, not being able to see the teleprompter?
That's a running joke.
No, it wasn't. Jonathan could see the teleprompter. Jonathan... The teleprompter is, yes, I'm finished, thank you very much. The teleprompter is right next to the camera. Here's the camera and here's the teleprompter.
Thank you.
And it's not telling tales out of school to say that Jonathan used to look and used to read the teleprompter all the time. Jonathan had a problem. He always had a problem about learning lines. Some people do it easily and some people don't. I guess it's really nothing that can be learned. I think you've either got it or you don't, and if you don't learn lines easily, it's very upsetting, and it's very tension-making. Obviously, I do, so... But Jonathan used to read, and I think our theory was that everybody in America thought they were looking at him. And he was really looking at the teleprompter. And he used to read the teleprompter. And the thing about reading is that if you're reading, you're reading. If you're acting, you're acting. Acting, there's a thought process that goes, from moment to moment to moment. Whereas if you're reading, and it's a whole other process is going on. And dear Jonathan used to read, and he used to read my lines off the teleprompter. And I used to go, oh, What do I do now? I've got to cross over and say, and then he's going to come in, and I've got to be over there. You know, in your mind, Grayson almost like that. And I would say, well, as you were, Barnaby. Stop knowing you did something wrong. He's a love. He really is. He's so funny.
I always had the theory that he sort of created a lot of his characteristic gestures by trying to angle himself with the telephone.
No, he sees very well.
Very strange, you know, movements, and they were very characteristic. The way he had it going around, you know, he would walk up to a piece of furniture, grab it, stick it in the attic, grab it, you know, the camera. And I always used to try and figure out whether it was dramatic effect or, you know, forgotten about walking.
Funny. No, it was dramatic effect, really, mostly. No, it really was. And he was brilliant about that, I must say, he really was. But he would just set himself up. It's heaven. It really was. Very sweet man. Really, I've seen him at parties and things. I haven't in a while. He and Louis Edmonds are very close, and they see each other all the time. And I see Louis now and again. I'm very fond of Louis. And Louis is busy, of course, on my children. And, oh my God. And Louis lives around the corner from Nancy, so they run into each other and they see each other. So, you know, I don't see Jonathan per se, but I see him, you know. Our House in the Country is going to be an architectural digest in January or February. I don't know which month. I'll let you know when I know more seriously, because they'll tell me.
More advance notice than better.
And it's an expensive magazine, so it's silly to have to buy it. They took the photographs, and a photographer came. Golly, the way they do things, because those photographs are just beautiful, those places. And a photographer and his assistant came up for 4 days. I mean, they didn't stay with me, they stayed at the local inn. And then, that was fine, and then I was only there for one of the days. I had to leave, come down here and work, I guess. And then, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, a writer came and did a whole interview and all that. And I said, oh, Sam, I said, really? I said, it cost them a fortune. And he said, they don't have to pay us anything. Oh, I said, don't me.
You don't get a royalty on that?
Nothing.
How did they pick your house?
Through a decorator. We have a friend who is a decorator who has been helping us with the house. And it certainly doesn't change our life, but it does his. It's good business for him, you see, to get a house in the magazine with photographs and all that. So that other people see it and say, oh, wow. You know.
What kind of a house is it?
It's a house that was built in 1799.
Oh, that's nice.
And there are Victorian additions. Well, we took all our stuff from town and we took up there because it's a big house, a bigger house than our apartment, and the rooms are bigger. And they're beautifully proportioned. And we've redone our apartment in New York kind of modern, but we took all the antiques that we had and put them in the country. So we're kind of funny, modern, odd in town.
American antique.
Huh? No, we're really quite eclectic. A lot of American, but a lot of French and some Biedermeier. And it's hard to say. We just fall in love with pieces and then figure out places that they work. You know.
Did you do structural modifications on them?
I beg your pardon?
Structural modifications on them?
Did we do structural modification? No. we sealed up a wall. Yeah, it wasn't a wall. It was just a door that went from one room to another. And we made a French door where there was a door, but it was a closed door. We opened it, made a double French door. Not really. And the house was very sound. The people that had owned it before had put a new roof and put a new furnace and pipes and stuff like that. So they had done the important basic things and expensive things that don't show.
Magazine that this is primarily...
I can't hear you, darling. You have a voice that does not...
So the magazine's interest is primarily in the historical value.
No, in the decorations. And in the magazine, it's Architectural Digest, but it's not really interested in architecture so much as it is in interior design, yeah. And that's what it's about, if you've ever seen the magazine. Yeah, it really is. It's all interior decorator stuff.
Yeah, they occasionally, they'll cover things that are restorations.
Yeah, but it's really based on the interior decorator that did the restoration. I mean, it's a magazine for interior decorators. And ours is... Well, he's a very well-known interior decorator, but, I mean, he used all our furniture from town, and so what he did was more a sense, and he has a place up near where we are, which is how it all happened. He's a friend. And what he did was really help us tie things up with a professional eye more than anything else.
Just putting this here, this here, this here.
Yeah, it's hard, I mean, because those people have really a visual talent that is, acuity that is really extraordinary. I mean, I don't see things visually, really, I mean, he'd say, do you like this material, and wouldn't this be nice on a couch? And I'd say, I don't know.
Sure, you say so.
And mistakes were made as far as we were concerned. I mean, there are things that I said yes that I don't really like, that I will change, but at least it got done, the room got finished, and I would have sat around and, you know what I mean, and it would never have gotten done if I really had to make up my mind about this and that. Because then Sam and I agree, and then we disagree, and then we don't know what we're doing. Because neither of us are visual. It's a whole other talent. It really is. It's a marvelous talent. A director has to have, And actually, somehow or other, I think visuality, or whatever the word is,
Perceiving something.
yeah, visual perceptions, I think, are something that can be learned as opposed to others. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can learn that goes nicely with that, or that those flowers are interesting because of that and that. And you know what I mean? That there's a composition there. You can learn that. Whereas, I mean, you can't learn a lot of things that are more literary. That you can learn in a different way. But you can teach yourself visual things, I think. I think a good director, I think Steven Spielberg was born with it, but, other people, I think, can learn it. It can be a taught thing. But I ain't got it. Nor does Sam. It's just something we've never learned, we've never taught each other. I've never been interested, really, terribly, and visual things. I care about creature comforts, but I don't care about... I suppose, I always say I could live in a hotel room. Yes, I could live in a hotel room if it had that, little touches here and there.
Well, it's pleasing to your eye, and comfortable.
Yeah, I could just be comfortable rather than have it be superb or, marvelous. But interior decorators have to have it superb and marvelous, and they know good, better, best in terms of, yes, you like that, but what if we add this? Oh, you say, that's much better. You know what I mean? It really is a whole other talent. Wow. Be a charming thing. He told me once how he knew he was a critic.
And if you were in costume, you got
He saw Michael Feingold, yeah. He saw a play called Marat Sade, which was done, of course, on Broadway with Glenda Jackson some years ago. And he was young, you know, when he saw it. I don't remember how long. It was a long time ago. Anyway, I mean, Glenda Jackson was like 18 or 20 or, you know, something, so it wasn't long ago. Michael was a student, and he saw it. And afterward, he and his friends were discussing the play, and he said, well, he said it was fascinating at the end when the stage manager comes out and creates the whole thing that is not real. And they all looked at him and said, out of your mind. When did that happen? And he said, no, I'm not. I mean, I saw that happen. And everybody was so caught up in this and that and the whole magic of the performance, the production, that nobody had thought that. And he said, some part of me back here, some subliminal thing, said, oh, well, that was pretty clever of me, you know.
Registered that, huh?
Isn't that fascinating? Because it is a critic's thing that he noticed. It's directorial or critical or whatever it is, you know, it's fascinating. He really is an extraordinary person. He's very appealing. I'm very fond of him. He had done a production of Facade as well, and he knows every damn word of it. I hate him.
He wrote on everyone you met.
And he helped me. He was very helpful. Because he came up the weekend before I did it, and I said, and he told me that on the record Edith Sitwell had made mistakes.
Well, not long, but I've recently come to the conclusion.
And he showed me where.
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, it made me feel better, because I made a couple of mistakes in performance.
Hopefully
But
you know this.
he wasn't at performance, no, but I told him about them. And also, I was fascinated that some of the musicians made mistakes. I had never known that sort of thing happened. And also, the conductor, I thought he was sparing me because of my mistakes, but I don't know that that's so, because he said he had forgotten a retard somewhere. And I, of course, was not aware of it. I was kind of in some kind of crazy daze getting through. You know, like when you don't really know what you're doing and it's a first performance, you just kind of plow ahead and pray.
That is.
I didn't do an accent, you know, when I did it. Yeah, no, I didn't. John Huston and I discussed it. And he said no, he really felt that she shouldn't have an accent. What's fascinating about Euphemia is that I started out without an accent. And Peggy O'Shea, one of the writers that works with Sam, said that she had taped 3 hours. Somehow or other she had missed seeing it, and she had 3 hours backed up. And she saw, well, you know, 1, 2, 3, and all of a sudden I went from no accent to a southern accent. So what happened? And I said, the producer, Joe Stewart, had been on vacation. The first time I worked, the first couple of times I worked, and then he came back from vacation and he said, I think you should have an accent.
Did you go down south for his vacation or something?
No, just, Euphemia was from Louisiana, honey. So I said, oh, all right, you know, I don't care. And I said, except that it had seemed to me, I had made the choice. Nobody had discussed it with me, but I had made the choice because I decided that she was a woman who, in her affluent days, had traveled all over the world and had been to Europe and had been, you know, and had probably been to school up north and, you know, all that. And so there would be just kind of a residual accent that happens. Sometimes you hear those people say one word that catches you, you know. And so he said, well, all right, accept that. And so that's kind of what I do. It gets a little heavy sometimes or lighter sometimes. I can't absolutely control it.
I mean,
I can't hear you.
I think you do fine with it. It works very well.
Lightly, I think. Yeah, it's directed by a marvelous man who may very well be the best director I've ever worked with, and I've worked with some good directors, named Minos Volanakis, and Minos translated it as well. Clearly he's Greek. And after the political situation in Greece ended, and after the junta, he was able to go back. He and Lina Mercuri and, all those people that had been out politically were able to go back, and he's now head of the National Theater in Athens. And he's a brilliant director and a brilliant man, and the dearest thing he did was, we were in Europe, we were in Italy, I guess 4 years ago or something, I think 4. And Sam had to come back to New York to work, but Matthew and I were free. And so Matthew and I decided we'd go to Greece. Why not? And so we went, and I cabled Minos. And I said, arriving, whatever, date at the Grand Montagna, Athens, and which is a lovely hotel with a view of the Acropolis out of your window. I must say, it is just to die. You've been there. Oh, gosh. Anyway, we had a terrace, and from the terrace you saw, well, anyway. So Matt and I arrived, and the plane was late, all kinds of things, and we got in at 2 o'clock in the morning instead of 10 o'clock at night, and one of those. And there were 83 messages from Minos. And he said, he called and left phone numbers where he was going to be and all that sort of thing. Does it work out? What Minos did was absolutely fascinating. He was about to start rehearsals with a play, the Girardot play. I think it was the Repetition, I'm not sure. And he postponed rehearsals for 3 weeks. You could never do that in America. He postponed rehearsals because I arrived for me.
Oh my God.
And he became my guide. And we had the most extraordinary experience, Matthew and I. We went to Epidaurus, which is did you go to Epidaurus?
I think I tell me more about it. The name started with
It's on the Peloponnese. It's on the west side. It's a place with 19,000 seats, an extraordinary...
Yes, you stand at the bottom and you whisper.
And you can whisper and they can hear you.
Yes, we did that. Yes, I know.
And they did a play called Peace by Aristophanes, which was absolutely fascinating. And Minos sat in the middle and did kind of a UN literal translation. It's really not necessary because there were 19,000 people sitting there. And everybody was laughing at the right times. And you turn around. I remember right behind us, there were about 30 Japanese people. And they were sitting there going, oh. As I've always been, I'm madly in love with Minos Romanakis. I mean, what an extraordinary thing to do. And he took us on a trip. We went around the Peloponnese and we visited people that he knew. We stopped at Hydra and Spetses and it was just to die. Anyway, he was the director of that play and the translator. And I wish there was a version of his. I have a copy of the working script somewhere. But I don't know, Bernard Freckman did the translation of the balcony, which I was in as well. And he was all right, but Minos was much better because Bernard Freckman's a translator and Minos is a director. I mean, with a whole other thing. As I say, he's probably the best director I've ever worked. It's a very complex play, and I used to say to him, come and talk to me every night at a half hour. And he'd say, what do you want to talk about? I said, just talk. Just talk about the character, anything. And it was an endless play. I had 2 hours between scenes. And I couldn't go out because I had this incredible makeup on, which was like clown white with purple lips, and oh God, it was all bizarre. I have photographs somewhere. Actually, there's a photograph of me in one of those, what do you call those year things, the Daniel Blum.
Oh, yeah. Theater annual.
Yeah, the theater.
John Lewis is the attendant.
Yeah, whatever they are, those theater books that say what's happening in the theater.
Theater world.
Theater world, that's it, yeah. And there is a photograph of me, which is really quite fascinating with this wild makeup on. And I had styrofoam breasts and hat pins stuck in them. And I remember Willa Kim did the costumes, and she put me in these things, and there were these styrofoam breasts, and then she came at me and started putting these hat pins in, and I said, God, nobody's going to look at me. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say, they'll be staring at these hat pins sticking in my styrofoam breasts. And then they said they couldn't use any photographs of me because it would be, it would look lewd in the newspapers. And then, of course, it was the photograph they chose for the theater world. So you can figure anything.
They ran an article on, thinking there was Manhattan Theater Club, but didn't think you had a show.
Yeah. But I have worked at Manhattan Theater Club.
Yeah, maybe that was why, but there was an article on that in After Dark complex. That they ran
I remember that they ran, yeah, with the styrofoam. Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Then I'm not going to be on until the 29th, the 30th, and the 1st.
It'll be on the 8th, 7th, and 6th.
So that's a week later. 29th, 30th, and 1st. 30 days has September, April, May.
That's right. January, February, March, April.
And that's as far as they go with the schedule.
Well, you don't know what the storyline is. You just assume you'll be on again later.
Now, I know that on the 29th, I come to Landview. So, obviously why I'm not on for the next 3 weeks, because they're arranging for me to
make your grand entrance.
Also, Delilah came on today, as we know, and so she's got to get established. And what's going to happen to her is she's going to, I'll tell you this, but I think it's interesting. It's a nice way, I mean, it's fascinating about how brilliant Sam is. She's going to get arrested. She's going to be put in jail and in the same jail cell with Vicky.
She was asking me about
Isn't that clever?
That's great.
And so that's how it's all going to work out.
It's better than Vicky working a bar or something. A little bit different.
But isn't that nice? It's really a nice way, because Vicky happens to be in jail. You all know that. I love daytime television.
I feel, though, that I...
You know, I mean, people say to me, wouldn't you like to go to California and do one of those things? Yeah, I would, except that I wouldn't like to live in California, and I wouldn't like to be there. I like being in a hurry.
You're used to it. You like the move.
Yeah, and I like seasons.
Yes, that is a
I'm
difference.
so bored with that damn sun.
Well, I know you filmed like gargoyles out there. Is there anything else you filmed out there?
No, I didn't do gargoyles there. No, we did gargoyles at
I mean, it was out west, right? It was out
Carlsbad Caverns. That's where we shot that.
Have you filmed anything out in California?
Yeah, I filmed a lot of things in California. I filmed the Disney film,
Oh, that kind of cat.
and I filmed, television things. Bojack out there. I did the thing I did for Jan Curtis with Big Young and Lee J. No, I can't remember, but I like going out there to work and then coming back, And now I've got a month off, and my agent says, well, maybe you'll go out, I said, well, maybe.
If you had your druthers, would it be stage, film, or TV, or did you
Stage, generally. It's really depending on what you've done more recently. stage is really the most gratifying.
You get that immediate response.
It's an instant response. It's an instant gratification. You hear them laugh, or you hear them applaud, or you hear them cry, and you communicate with them, you know, I mean, on some marvelous level.
And everybody can see it their own way. It's not like they're stuck with a camera view. If they want to look over there while the action is going on.
Well, it's always, then those other things are all a director's meeting. You know? And it's the director that sets the thing up and says, this is what you're going to see, and this is how you're going to see it. And an actor can be, I think that movie, God, End of the Road, movie a long time ago with Stacy Keach and James Earl Jones. And we did it here in New York. And the director had been an editor. Aaron Lavakian was his name. And his wife played the lead. Her name was Dorothy Cisco. And he spent a year doing editing. And he and his wife split during the time he was editing. And then he cut the scene that I did the part for. It was a beautiful scene. And he just cut it. And I just really, that's when I really thought, oh, the hell with it. You know, I mean, because there's no control at all. Really, there's more control on a soap. Because you're not going to be cut and split and you know, and all that. Because you don't do it like a film. You do it with 5 cameras and that's it. We used to do it in Dark Shadows time with 3 cameras. Now that's interesting, how that's developed. You know, now we do it with 5 cameras. The studio is bigger, there are more sets. You know, so you need cameras for getting around. Fascinating. But the best thing is that you can say, I'm up, I don't remember my line. And if you feel that it's not going well, you're able to do that. And you really are, and they want you to, because it doesn't really cost them what it cost them at Dark Shadows to edit. I mean, they expect to edit. And very often, most times, at the end of the scene, they will stop tape and check the tape for whatever reason, because there's an edit going in or something. I don't know all those technical things. It's fascinating. But it can be perfect. And that's what, you know, One Life to Live is, as perfect as it can be. Technically. You know.
And that wasn't true back in, well, not just with DS, but with so many things back in the 60s. Sure. I think I read somewhere that once the Dark Shadows for the 60s had an abnormally large number of sets for a 60s soap opera.
I suppose it did. I don't know. We used to race from one to another. It was exhausting. You know, you'd really get to the next set out of breath. And think, oh God, where am I? What am I saying? What am I doing? Oh, okay. And then somebody says, gives you a cue, and you suddenly answer automatically. You know, fascinating. But really out of breath, controlling the out of breath. Well, all right.
No, I'm serious. Timmy just died or whatever.
Well, what's the matter? Yes, I have my stethoscope with me.
You need another injection, Barnabas, that's it?
Yes. Good night.